All right, so now we understand the difference between vertices and edges and faces. Let's talk about manipulating them. If you remember, let me select one vertex here by right-clicking it. If I go to a front view and I go, we'll change that from perspective to orthogonal by hitting the 5 key. Before, let me tab over into object mode. When I had the whole object selected, if I grabbed, I could pull it up and down. I could constrict it to a axis. Then I could right-click to cancel it out or left-click to accept. In the tab mode, I can do basically the same thing. If I grab a vertex selected and I grab it, I can constrain it to X, and I can just move that one vertex up and down. Scaling and rotation are a little bit different. You'll have to have a couple vertices selected to do that to give them a relation to each other. All right, so let me go ahead and shift-click 2 of these, and let me go ahead and hit the R key to rotate. Notice how I have a dashed line going in between the 2 vertices. The way we have the way we have Blender set right now, it picks the median point. And as I twist, see, I can rotate those 2 around that middle point. Let me right-click to select out of that. And the same way with scale. If I scale, you have a dashed line going in the middle. I can scale those relative to each other, closer. And I can also constrain that to a axis. So if I go rotate and Z, can't really see it in this, but let me go ahead and set that and then go up. See how I've rotated this around, and now I've rotated them relative to each other. And now I have a new shape. Now, since I've accepted that, let me tab back into object mode, and I have a whole new shape. All right, tab back into edit mode, and let's do a Control Z a couple times, and we're back to we canceled it out. All right, so let's go into front view again. All right, another important thing is if you want to scale these relative to each other, you pick the median point, and like I said, it'll so if I do rotate, it goes around that median point where the dashed line is. But another thing I can do is okay, let's take our cursor and let's move it over here. Okay. All right, so now let's rotate. Down here in this menu, you have, right now we're rotating around the median point. That means any 2 vertices you meet, it goes in between them, and or 3 vertices, it goes in between them, and then when you rotate, it actually uses that as the pivot point. This is the pivot point menu. Let's change this over to 3D cursor. Now our pivot point's at the 3D cursor. So now if I rotate, notice I have this line here with dashed line now goes to the 3D cursor. And now when I rotate, it rotates around the 3D cursor. If I would go all the way around, just takes it all the way around there, the points I have. Okay? And this is very important. Sometimes you can manipulate objects that if you don't want to go around the center, the median point of those, you can rotate them around another point in space, and you can put the 3D cursor there, and then just change this pivot point to this 3D cursor. All right, so let's go back to the median point. All right, so let's go ahead and let's tab back into, just check if you remember this. Let's tab back into object mode. Now we want to put the cursor back at the selected. What we have to do is, if you hit the space key, and we put snap, we can either do cursor to, since the cube's still in the center, we can do cursor to center, or we can do cursor to active or cursor to selected since we only have the one object. So cursor to selected. Right there, our cursor's right back in the middle again. Okay, so let's go back into edit. Actually, before we go back into edit mode, let's look at object mode. Let's grab it, and let's constrain to the Z. Let's pull it up. If you notice, our origin point stays with our object. No matter we would put this object in object mode, the origin will stay in the middle. Let's tab into edit mode though. All right, let's go ahead and hit A to deselect these 2 vertices we had and reselect everything. Let's grab on our Z axis and move it up. If you notice, our origin stays where it's at. You want to be very careful with this, moving objects in edit mode or object mode, because you will move where your origin point is. Then when we have our pivot point set to the median point, if we have everything selected in object mode, let's go back into edit mode just to show you this. Let's grab this on the Z and let's just move it up here. Let's go back into object mode. Now let's rotate our object around the median point, and it rotates it around our origin. And then sometimes that can cause you trouble if you don't watch it, but it's pretty easy to get back where it was. There's a couple ways to do that. Let's go over one of them now. So now what we can do is we can say spacebar, snap, let's do origin. Let's type in origin. So we want to do set origin. Very long hotkey combination, Shift, Control, Alternate, C. But if you click on that, you get another menu here. And so we can set geometry to origin. What we can do here is geometry to origin, and it moves it right back to where it was. We can also move the origin to the geometry, or origin to selected, I believe it is, and it'll also put it back, but it would bring it up, and then we would have to set our object back down. And then, so let's tab back into edit mode. And basically that's it for manipulating. You just have to watch where you're at when you're manipulating an object. On the scale and rotate, you have to do it relative to another object. So like I said, if I would just click one vertex and I push rotate, since that's only one point in space, it's really not doing anything. And if I do scale and it's only one, it really doesn't do anything because you're scaling one point. Grab can be used with only one point. Same thing can go with 2 points on grab. Change the Z and bring both these up. And you can start seeing how you can already make shapes just by doing this. All right. The only other thing that I wanted to tell you on this one is if I click one vertex, if you look up here on your menu up here where it says what version of Blender you're running, you have some labels here. So you have verts, which is your vertices. You have one selected out of 8. So if I select everything, A to deselect, A to select, you notice I have 8 of 8. Same way with edges, 12 of 12. Faces, 6 of 6. So you're basically, here's where you can keep counting how many vertices you have and how many vertices you have selected. So right now I have 1 of 8 vertices selected. I have no edges selected. If I shift select that, now I have 2 vertices out of 8 and 1 out of 12 and 0 out of 6 faces. So let me shift select 4. So now I have 4 out of 8 vertices, 4 out of 12 edges, and those edges make a face. So now I have 1 of 6 faces selected. All right, so in the next video, like I said, we'll be adding some geometry and we will be delving a little bit further into how to start getting other things than just primitives out of them. All right, thank you very much.